his brother Howard Rimmer from the episode Trojan. Please get up for the brilliant Mr. Mark Dexter!
Morning all.
Hello everyone. How are we today, all right? Not bad, thanks. Not bad at all. Am I shouting? These microphones are very good. Yes, I'm shouting. Stop shouting.
They're only there.
Right, can't see anyone really, just getting blinded by this green strip light in front of me.
So thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. So, Chris, what was it like for you then when you found out that we'd be getting to see another Rimmer brother? And we'd be finally getting to delve a bit more into his past again when you first heard about the episode.
Do you know what? I have to say, I didn't really hear a word of that. Because it's quite echoey, so
I'll move closer.
Go again, Stuart.
When you first heard that they were going to do an episode where we were going to see Howard...
What's it like having me as a brother?
Well, how did you react?
You git.
Do you know what? I thought I was slightly jealous, actually. Because here was this better side of Rimmer coming along to sort of rain on my parade. But actually, once we got going with the series, with the episode, it made a lot of sense, and I couldn't think of a better person to play my brother than an actor that we didn't cast because he wasn't available. No, but no, Mark was absolutely brilliant, and the immortal line that I'm sure will be said at some point during the next half hour or so, was delivered with absolute panache by this man. And yeah, it was a great episode, Trojan. But yeah, it was at last an opportunity for Smeghead Rimmer to be alongside one of the great legendary brothers.
It was a grim day for me, though, when I got a call from my agent, which let me know, in no uncertain terms, that I must resemble Chris Barrie.
So I'm not sure I agree with that.
Wow. It's taking some getting used to even now.
Yeah, no,
I say that, but really,
What's wrong?
love it. Yes, well, that's what's wrong.
There you go. Yeah, good to resemble someone like this, isn't it? Really. Yes, you haven't quite got the nostrils, but you've got a few decades to work on that, probably.
And Mark, what was it like when you finally got to, because you get told you're going to be on Red Dwarf, and not only that, you're going to be part of the iconic Rimmer family.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange thing guesting on a show like this, because I've been a fan for years. I love this show. I don't like Chris to hear me saying these things because he gets difficult. His head visibly swells. These guys have been in it since year dot. I don't think they fully appreciate the buzz that somebody like me gets. I mean, I heard that Dave was bringing back the series, and I was fist pumping that day. I was saying, I'm going to watch that. Next thing I knew, I was in it, and it's surreal. It's kind of surreal, but you have to just sort of put that to one side and do the work. And these guys are a bunch of professionals, made that easy, and they're also nice. I have to say that.
There we go. He said it. Hopefully, it's being recorded. We are a bunch of professionals.
Yeah.
I'll pass that on to Craig.
Along with your £20 note.
Danny and Robert. They're professionals.
And what was it like for the both of you filming that episode then? Because it was really good to watch and really good fun. Was it just as fun filming it, or?
Well, that was series 10, so we were getting used to the new regime, if you like, the new sort of parameters to record a series of Red Dwarf. The most difficult thing for me in that episode was a little moment where I pressed the wrong button and the seat went down.
Yeah, you had to do this, didn't you?
I had to do that, yes, and
16 times.
52-year-old man, I couldn't do my squats. I remember at school back in the 70s, I was quite good at them, But when Doug sort of go, yeah, Chris, didn't look as convincing as take 15, so let's do a few more. My thighs were aching by the end of that day, and that was one of the little memories I have. But it was great fun. Trojan, as I say, was one of my favourite episodes in Series 10. How did you find it, Mark?
Well, I've been meaning to ask you, actually, because we were busy being professional at the time. This was the first show of the new Dave era. And looking back, I think you guys were properly excited to be back, weren't you? I remember there was one moment backstage in rehearsals where you and Danny spontaneously broke into the theme tune and sang it just for me. And I sort of shat my pants with glee. I couldn't believe what was going on. And it was only afterwards that I realized, you know what, I think it's good to be back in the zone for these boys. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Make us sound like a pair of sad geeks.
I
Really.
know, but that's with all due respect.
We don't do that for everyone.
I know.
Oh, it's a guest performer on Red Dwarf. We must sing them the theme tune.
Susan Earle and I were having a conversation about Howard Goodall and how he's a genius, and you just happened to say, yes, it is a great tune. How does it go again? And then Danny joined in, and I just couldn't believe it.
Danny, well, I'm great. I'm glad you remember me singing, because usually when Danny joins in, he's a proper singer. I tend to.
I knew that one of you
out.
was struggling slightly. I couldn't tell at the time which, but thank you.
Well, I'll tell Danny that. No, it's definitely me who's struggling. But no, we don't do that for everyone. But yeah, we were proper excited to do that, to come back in a set of 6 episodes with an audience. And Series 10 is set the bench again with Lemons, which is a great episode. Trojan. I think Dear Fathers and Sons was good, a tour de force by Craig that day. He was ill as well that week, incredible. He came to work that. So yeah, Series 10, we were proper excited to be back. And, at the moment we're trying to work out how we can do Series 13 and 14. So fingers crossed.
And it was good to have the audience back, isn't it? Because I think the series before, you didn't have an audience, and it's amazing what a difference having a live audience has to that show, isn't it, really?
Well, you're referring to Back to Earth, of course, that, does have mixed reviews from the fans. I don't know whether we've got a pro Back to Earth majority in here today or not, but I think Back to Earth, if you watch it, as Mark says, there's no audience there. It's shot like a film, but in 3 parts, and I think if you watch it all as one big part, it's a good caper, But I think the audience told us, we prefer Red Dwarf as 6 episodes with an audience, and that's what we did for 10, 11, and 12.
I made the mistake when I got the job. I went online to see whether or not you shot it in front of an audience, and I obviously read about just the previous series. So it was a bit of a shock when I realized we were going to have a live audience, and I realized I was going to have to learn my lines after all. But I think it makes a difference to have that live experience. Not many shows in this country are made in front of live audiences anymore. We used to live in the times when Terry and June and Only Fools and Horses, etc. Everything was being done in front of a live audience. There's hardly anything being made, unlike in the States where they do a lot of stuff, and I think that's a great shame, really.
Yeah, no, and our live audiences were absolutely brilliant. They make the night for us because they're such enthusiastic audiences, sitting there for from sometimes 7 o'clock in the evening till 11 o'clock on those uncompromising seats, and the audience. Very exciting nights, and yeah, we learned some of the lines, didn't we?
Yes, I can confirm that.
And in the A episode, you both have to do some rather interesting resentment faces. How did you come up with your individual resentment faces?
I think I had to copy you because you shot your scene first.
Yeah, did I consult you for that?
I think we had a chat.
Yeah, and then I just decided to do what was quite comfortable to stay there because you have to sort of hold the face for quite a long time on occasion in certain situations. So it was something that was going to be quite comfortable but different from my own face.
I couldn't do it. If you look hard at that episode, you can see that they've frozen my face. I don't know how they did it, but I thought I was doing this, but after half an hour, I just looked like this. I saw myself in a reflection. It's not happening anymore.
Well, yes, I mean, you can all do it at home, can't you? You can sort of go in front of the mirror and go...
Try doing that for half an hour. Do it this afternoon.
And eventually the muscles in your face will just slowly fail, and you'll stretch back to the normal, bland, characterless face.
So the answer is it was bloody difficult.
Fair enough. And we're going to open the questions to you guys now. 2 microphones are positioned sort of right here and here under the ominous spotlight. So if you'd like to ask questions, stand underneath the spotlight and then we will come to you. Got 1 gentleman making his way there. 2. So who gets their first wins? Oh, it's Kevin Owens.
That's a good idea.
Hello. Oh, it does work. Good. As you've done many sitcoms before, there's one that I think doesn't get appreciated, which is Prince Among Men, the football player. That was a short-lived series, but more importantly is the wig. It was a long blonde one, like Ace Rimmer sort of has. So what is the most uncomfortable prosthetic you've had to wear?
Wow.
Yeah, there could be a big wig debate about that, couldn't there? I think it was more mullet, wasn't it, than Ace. If you said mullet to Ace would get slightly irked if you said smoke me a kipper in a mullet. It was... I think the worst I've ever had to wear, personally, happened, and I can tell you this about Series 12, which will go out later on this year, is a Crichton mask. I don't know how many did say yes. Who knew that we had to wear Crichton masks in episode 12? Yeah? Yeah, a lot of the hardcore fans will know that because it's been, even Doug said it last year, I think. And that, my Robert deserves huge credit for wearing maybe 35 masks in a series. The rest of us, Craig, Danny, and I, had to wear 2. And I'll tell you what, that was a struggle. Because you do feel as if you're in a sort of prison of latex, with all the glue, and later on in the day, all the sweat driplets start coming down and you can't scratch them, So hard work. That, I have to say, of all the stuff I've ever had to wear on Red Dwarf. There's one other thing I have to wear, but I can't reveal that until it goes out in Series 12. But the Crichton mask was certainly tricky to wear. What about you, Mark? Have you had to wear some tricky prosthetics?
I don't think I've ever worn any apart from a beard.
Well, beards could be...
which was horribly itchy, but...
Well, all beards are. Even the ones you grow yourself can be a bit itchy.
It's all right, it's all right.
Oh, no, I was a burns victim once, and I had my eye... I don't know how they did that, but my eye went. There we go.
But it's sort of, while we're on beards, stick with us on the beards issue. If you grow a beard, I sometimes try and grow a beard, and you get past the bit where it's itchy, and everyone says you've got to go through that to get to the bit where it's not itchy, but I've never managed to get through that.
Condition your beard, it helps.
Right.
You must have a lot of time on your hands to... Beard conditioning.
How did we get onto this?
Next up on beard tips. Gentleman over on this side.
Hello. Hello. Blimey. Good grief. Question for Mark. In the episode Trojan, how much fun was it to have been to have said to Chris Barrie, "But you were an utter twat"?
That is the line I knew would at some point. I didn't know you were going to do it, but well done anyway.
How much fun do you think?
A lot, I imagine.
Yay. Because he is.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's short and sweet.
And this gentleman here.
My favourite line from Red Dwarf-The Rimmers is that death is like going on holiday with a group of Germans. I wondered which is your favourite line that Rimmer's ever done.
Oh, there's a lot of good lines. That is a good one. Recently, I sort of have like a chart of lines, and a number one recently for a few weeks was "It's my duty. It's my duty as a complete and utter bastard." I think from time slides where I had to sort of go in and rescue Lister from all that wealth. Can't have too much wealth, for God's sake.
Thank you. And we're still on the same side.
Good luck with that. There we go.
Sorry, I'm really short. This is a question for Chris. So, how did you feel when you found out that Rimmer was actually going to get an episode where he is an officer?
I thought, at last, I've made it as an officer. You're referring to Officer Rimmer?
Yeah.
in Series 11. Yeah, no, good and great how it sort of came about, how, you know, we introduced all the, you know, sort of fairly modern issue of bioprinting, you know, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, great to have the Officers Club, you know, Rimmer's own Officers Club in his own image. And one of the high moments for me was he introduced, you know, a special sort of conveyancing belt, you know, that he went, you know, that the grunts saw him sort of disappear down towards the Officers Club. So the Rimmer monster was actually a bit of a nightmare. That was more latex, going back to your question, that I had to sort of wear and be part of the Rimmer monster. All those Rimmer heads, that was quite sort of slightly creepy.
Is that the
actually.
one where there's millions of you in the same, millions of you?
Yes.
How was that on the old ego, seeing so many of you on the television?
That was just fine.
I just wondered.
Look, we all have episodes that are about whichever character, you know. So, see, Officer Rimmer, of course, it was an absolutely brilliant, but it didn't last long enough.
That's a better answer to my question.
Yeah, it didn't last.
A little bit more of that.
All great things come to an end, but that came to an end too soon. But yeah, again, obviously for Rimmer character, you know, one of his high points of Series 11.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And a question over this side.
So growing up, I used to love watching the Smeg Up videos. Do you have any particular that stick in your mind as like great funny incidents on set over the years?
Well, I think when the Smeg Outs come out from Series 11 and 12, you're in for a treat. It's the Robert Llewellyn show. I mean, Bobby is one of the endlessly most witty fellas I know. He's always got, you know, a great line, and he was cooking on gas, you know, for a lot of the episodes. So yeah, look, a lot of stuff kind of goes wrong. It's mainly due to the fact we haven't learned the lines. You know, we haven't had time to learn the lines. I will defend us. I will defend the time, you know, us against the time schedule forever. But it's basically because we want the best lines possible. And if you think of a better line late in the day, you've got to include it. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, usually when there was a Smeg Up or Smeg Out, of course, Bertrand, yes, I went to Kenny Williams is here, and I did all that, you know. So, yeah, loads of things sort of go wrong. Well, Craig was sort of, you know, fiddling with the control panel of Starbug and goes, "This lasted a long time," you know, holds it up and. Yeah, in fact, that's Danny's line. Danny, you know, Craig broke it, and Danny goes, "That lasted a long time." So yeah, I mean, mainly silly things like that, you know, and the Smeg Ups, you know, we don't sort of contrive them, but we know that there's going to be a DVD made with them on it, but we don't, you know, we want to get the show made. We're not there to make the Smeg Ups, you know, so they kind of happen quite naturally.
When you talk about lines and learning and timing, is that you shot 12 and 13, 11 and 12 at the same time, didn't you? Or I mean, or back to back?
Back to back, yeah.
How was that?
What, for line learning?
Yeah.
Nightmarish.
Right. Yeah.
Because sometimes what happened is you're sort of on episode 5, and you've had 6 or 7 weeks of filming, and suddenly in episode 5, in a scene, you go into the dialogue of episode 2. And that is where you begin to question, A, your sanity, and B, your health. You think, hello, this shouldn't be happening. But yeah, it's, and in particular, well, I say particularly for Crichton maybe and Rimmer, but for all the characters, Lister had some massive long pieces over the seasons, and you know, more and more Cat has been getting some long stuff, and you know, in series 10 was it, Crichton and Cat doing the synchronicity scene. I mean, that was, you know, they did that most of that in one take. It was just unbelievable. So yeah, there's a lot to learn. So to answer your question, Mark, yeah, it's
great for the Smeg Ups tape, though.
Great for the Smeg Ups, because you know, the more series goes on, the more mistakes are going to be. Anyone else?
And we got a question for this young person here.
Breaking the mic here. Hello. I was wondering, Chris, what's it like working with yourself? Because obviously, like Me Squared, Rimmer World, Rimmer gets a lot of episodes where you have to work with your own character. What's it like to film those scenes and basically act with yourself?
Put it this way. When I got cast, he was pissed off that he wasn't playing his brother. Okay? There's a clue.
Fair, yeah.
Yes, well, working with myself, I know I'm going to be working with a total professional. Bloody difficult, actually. Because, yeah, you're working to sort of thin air. And particularly in the old 20th century days when technology wasn't quite as quick as it is now, and you had someone reading in for you. And it just took a long time. You know, the split screen in Me Squared, for example, took a long time, and Ace finding a decent split there for when Ace arrives in Starbug. Quite difficult, and of course you've got double the learning. And you know, there are situations where you really do want to have a lot of time to get the lines learnt. Which, to be fair, that was the advantage of being, you know, back in Acton rehearsing for series 1 to 8, because we did have more time to learn the lines, you know. But you know, we get through it, and when you see it back, it's very exciting, because obviously it's up to the editor then and the director to make sure they've got all they need to build the scene. So it's testing for everyone.
Thank you.
Hi. I was just wondering, hi.
Hi.
Obviously, one of the best things and the favourite things that we love about Red Dwarf is the banter that goes back and forth, which includes all of the insults. I was just wondering if you had any favourite insults that your character received, or that you gave to the other characters?
You first, you utter twat.
Well, God, the Red Dwarf insults, where do you start, you know? Smeghead is one.
Like
Gimboid, you know, they're all fairly par for the course. Of course, one of my favourites for Crichton was Novelty Condom
I
Head.
was just thinking of that one.
But of course, he would say, yes, sir, Captain Bollocks. I'm just going to repeat the word bollocks quite a lot, sir. So yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. And just when I thought I was going to come out with a whole string of insults in Hollow Ship, I just came out with the immortal line, I've come to know you as people I met. Which I suppose is more insulting than anything, really. What about you? What's your favourite?
I was thinking of that one, but I also I think it was something like half-chewed rubber-tip pencil on...
I vaguely
You say
remember
it
that
so
one.
politely, it couldn't possibly be an insult.
Yeah, so there have been so many, and that's the joy of doing Red Dwarf. That the writing is, you know, Doug and back in the day Rob. The writing is so strong.
And you got away with quite a few things, because obviously it was back in the 90s and everything. You got away with a lot more of the insults as well.
Yeah, there's elements of that. We've tried not to compromise on, obviously, the 21st century these days, political correctness or you know, getting too near the mark in anything. You know, there is someone who sits in the studio these days, not only on Red Dwarf, but apparently on lots of shows, who's listening, watching the dialogue, watching the rehearsals, and saying, "Oh, should we have that in?" And of course, our jaws dropped when they were actually sort of saying, "Captain Bollocks." Now, I'm worried about that. What? Captain Bollocks? Who is that insulting? Who is that? You know, there's just nothing wrong with that at all. You know, but a few of the things. There's a little scene which I'm not going to tell you about that is from Rimmer in series 12. I'll be intrigued to see if that goes in.
If not,
But it got a huge laugh on the night. But it's just one of those things that they've got to temper these days a little bit. But you're right. There was certainly more freedom to kind of say what we wanted and not worry. You know, back in the 80s and 90s.
The great irony is that you quickly learn when you're working on the show that for a show that's full of so many insults, they're all really chummy. So it's pure talent.
Well, yes, we're. Yes, you should see, in the green room between the scenes. They're the real insults. No, we're like a little family. We love each other. Next, that was a rolling question. I like that, a rolling conversation. Anyone else from microphone A?
Question from the other mic.
Oh.
Okay. So I grew up watching Red Dwarf as a child, and what's really interesting about that is that I used to watch it with my dad, and we absolutely loved the show. So you've got a little girl and also a fully grown man, both engaging and loving this TV program. And so it's so important to us. It made me think, what is it about Red Dwarf that reaches so many different people?
That's a highly intelligent question. Mark, it's one for you, sir, I think.
I think my dad would be proud of that one.
It's dead funny. I think it's basically. I think that's the answer. I think the great writing is what endures. I think, and the fact that that's still on top form. I would say, as somebody in your position, because I was in this. Me and my dad used to watch it. And,
my dad didn't watch it. No, what did my dad used to say to me? He was quite a straight-laced sort of guy, and he sort of said, he says, yes, we watch Red, what's it called again? Red Dwarf, but we don't laugh much, but we do watch it. Your mother prefers the other one, but that can be amusing, So yeah, but sorry, going back to your question, I think it's quite innocent, Red Dwarf. I think it's its own little world, that people, from, 7 or 8 year olds can enjoy as well as 70 or 80 year olds. It's its own world. It's just the adventures of these bunch of losers, really, and it sticks to its own thing. It doesn't sort of try and deal with anything too heavy in a sort of controversial way. It just, and as Mark says, it's very funny. That's the bottom line for Doug. He writes those scripts, and that's why I've done British Empire, Spitting Image before all that, and a few other things. But Red Dwarf for me has almost stopped me from doing so many other things because I want to open a script and laugh. And that's what Red Dwarf's always done for me and does for so many different people. And I think it's just plain, pure comedy, really, and imagination. Not just the comedy, but it's the imagination of the plots. And it just, it doesn't try and be too pretentious or try and take sides with anyone or anything. It's its own little contained world.
Well done, Chris, for not saying it's all because of me. You're improving. It's getting better.
It's a four-hander, but we would be nothing without Doug Naylor and Rob Grant before that.
Thank you.
Now, the episode also saw the the Space Corps uniforms. We saw those, and they could be rather snug and interestingly fitting uniforms. What was it like when you first got shown that you had to wear them, and what was it like actually performing in them?
Well, you don't want to drink too much because trips to the bathroom were interesting. I never want to wear that costume ever again. But I nearly didn't do this, I was unwell for a month before we started. The only reason I fitted in that damn thing was because I'd lost a lot of weight. But they were snug, weren't they?
Yes. But I'm proud to say that I still managed to, fit into. My measurements had gone not quite as middle-aged as some might have suspected they would have done.
Do you still try on that costume just to check how you're doing weight-wise? You seem to have said that with such confidence that how on earth would you know?
I think I've been 34 waist for a long time, but I think it's a line in Red Dwarf from Listy sort of saying, there comes a time when you can't fit into your 28-inch trousers anymore, that sort of thing. And obviously that passed for me a long time ago. But yeah, I think in my 30s, 40s, and 50s, I've sort of been roughly the same weight. But yeah, it is still snug. Still snug. But you know, Howard Burden, our costume genius, designs a good costume, and the sort of really tricky thing, I don't know whether when you had your costume fitted, Howard showed you the drawings, and you see these sort of, you know, cartoon-esque people with these really slim waists and sort of, you know, I mean, beautifully shaped human specimens in his costumes, you know. You know, you look at them and go, I'm never going to look like that, you know. But it's, but yeah, my preferred costume is still the Series 1 fatigues. But don't tell Howard, because you get them at the Army and Navy store for, you know, 10 quid or something.
We've got time for a couple more questions, and I believe our King of Beards is back.
Yes, since we're on costumes, Angels and Demons, the evil Red Dwarf Rimmer's costume. When did you first see that, and did you have to be convinced, or you're just happy to climb in?
Have it attached to me, yeah. Yeah, I've said before many times, that was my least favourite costume, because it was fit. But for the show, I think it was a very effective costume. The problem was we were sort of, I think that was being sort of designed on the hoof, and the kind of costume was just finished literally the week we were doing it in Shepperton in the makeup hut round the back. So there were still sort of pins in it when I was sort of putting it on. So that if you sort of sat at a certain angle, you know, it got a little bit painful. But yeah, wearing the old suspender belts and stuff, it's not something obviously I do every day.
Was it high heels as well?
I think you better know better than me. Was it army boots? Was that? No, that was Mr. Flibble. Was it? What did I wear? No, but with the demons. Was it? I can't remember what boots I wore, but it was. I don't think it was high heels. No, high heels. I have worn high heels before for a show, for a part for a show.
Just for a minute there.
And that is something you never forget, because you just walk in a relatively unnatural kind of way. But no, it was that bit was all right. It was just around the suspender belt and the sort of the basque at the front there was a bit tricky, you know. And then things being stuck into my head, that was also a little bit tricky. So, but the Angels, which was my brook is babbled. I've got a photograph of that. You know, it is much more comfortable.
Thank you.
Well, we're exploring some very specialised areas today. I'm enjoying this.
So you came back for Red Dwarf after a break. I just wondered if you would ever think about visiting Gordon Britus again.
Well, that is an often asked question, and I hope that one day I can. But it means convincing one of the one writer who wants to do it from the two original writers. And that's going to take some doing, I think.
Does he have a brother?
He does, actually. Does he? Yeah.
Really?
Who appeared in one of the shows. I can't remember the name of the actor.
Played by you.
Played by me. It was no. But he played it quite well, actually, because he did a sort of almost a half British impersonation, which is quite fun. He spoke a little bit like this, you know, a little bit sort of like that, but not the full like that, you know. So it's quite an interesting thing.
Now we have one final question. It is 1971. A Swedish man is involved in a car accident.
It's a moose!
There we go. Ladies, that is all the time we have for our Red Dwarf panel. Please go for the brilliant Chris Barrie and Mark Dexter. And both Chris and Mark are available for signings and photos this weekend, so don't forget to visit them and say hello. And up next, we'll be joined by our Pokemon guest.
Without him life would be much grimmer. He's handsome, trim, and no one slimmer. He will never need a Zimmer. He's Arnold Rimmer, more reliable than a garden trimmer. He's never been mistaken for your grinner. He's not bald and his head doesn't glimmer. Master of the wit and the repartee, his command of space directives is uncanny. How come he's such a genius? Don't ask me. Arnold Rimmer, he's also a...
So don't forget, joining us at 2 o'clock, we have our Pokemon guest. And if you have any questions about the original Pokemon series, then Veronica Taylor will be with us at 2 p.m. here in the Gold Theatre, so don't forget to stay around for that. And then just a quick update to the schedule for you. Sam J. Jones and Warwick Davis, who are both scheduled